Over the past 250 years, the U.S. Army has had an incredible legacy. There's been some phenomenal soldiers like Audie Murphy, George Patton, Omar Bradley, Dwight D. Eisenhower, Roy Benavidez. There's just been countless phenomenal examples of leadership, heroism, courage. There's also been some otherwise questionable characters as well. But this is a story about opportunity. I didn't join the Army like most people do. I got in a lot of trouble when I was 17 and 18 years old. I ended up spending almost a year behind bars because I was stupid and I did stupid things and ended up getting 2 felonies before the time I was 19 years old. I wasn't able to join initially for obvious reasons, and the surge came about, the surge to Iraq. And I popped up and I had to get off of felony probation, which I was able to do early by good conduct. And I said, hey, I'll go. I always wanted to be in the military since I was a kid. I've always played with Army men. I mean, I could name any airplane in the sky. I had tons of micro machines growing up. I mean, I was all in, growing up in San Diego with Top Gun right there. And the Army gave me the opportunity and knew full well that I was a ne'er-do-well. I couldn't get a clearance right off the bat. I did relatively okay in the ASVAB. I'm not going to go out and say, I was incredible. I was, I got like a 73 on the ASVAB, so I wasn't like stellar. But I got in and graduated near the top of my class in tank school. Got excellence in armor and basic training. The whole time I was in the Army for 8 years, I never got in trouble. I think that was due to the fact that I knew what it was like if you get in trouble. I know what that rabbit hole looks like. I've checked that block, and I honestly don't want to have to go through another Sally Point and strip down and spread them and cough. I don't want to have to be surrounded by that environment again. The only monsters that I want to be around are the type of people of good character. So served in the tanks, went to Korea as a PFC. I shot a gunnery, my first gunnery, Q1, got my tanker boots. I had already gotten my tanker boots previously on a combination field problem gunnery thing in December of 2007. Went to Iraq and then came back to work in the arms room. Told my CO that, hey, I'm a convicted felon, I can't own any of these firearms. And he's like, you're in the arms room. And I never lost a single item. I treated everything as if it was my own, and I was a custodian of history. In 3rd Brigade, 3rd Infantry Division, I mean, these weapons that I was in charge of are historical artifacts. They're tools, and they're not mine, they're the government's. They're everybody who pays tax. It's their stuff, not mine. So, went to Iraq, got blown up like freaking everybody that went there did. Thankfully, came back relatively unharmed. When I got out, I applied for a certificate of rehabilitation, which is something that you can do in California. And I was like, I want to get my rights back. I want to be able, the whole time I have used machine guns, fired M4s, pistols, 50 cals, main gun, obviously, a whole bunch. And I was like, I want to be able to own firearms. I want to be able to instruct and help people be safe about the employment of their firearms, because I've seen some sketchy things. And so I petitioned the court for a certificate of rehabilitation. And I remember the judge came in and he was like 167 years old. This dude was old and he could barely walk. His head was down. He sat down and, hey, Mr. Clark, Sergeant Clark, do you mind if I call you that? And I was like, yeah, you can call me that, and Your Honor. And he was like, I was a JAG officer, and we got to talking a little bit. And he's like, you know, I don't get to do many of these, and this is really the highlight of my day. And I was just, hopefully I can find this gentleman's name. I don't recall right now, but it was just a really pleasant exchange. And he granted me a certificate of rehabilitation. Really appreciate that, especially from one service member to another, one soldier to another. And that triggered the process to get a governor's pardon. And just before Thanksgiving, I think it was like 2017 or 2018, I got a phone call from the governor's office saying, hey, you know, you've been granted a pardon. And then the news called me, and here's a clip from the news.
Receiving this news just a few days before Thanksgiving. It's news that has changed Paul Klock's life forever.
She let me know that for Thanksgiving, Jerry Brown has decided to grant a series of pardons, and she said that, you know, I had really earned my pardon.
Learning that his criminal record has now been erased. Klock was one of 38 people to receive this notice from Governor Jerry Brown's office this week.
It was a real blessing. I was absolutely taken aback. Like, wow, Thanksgiving, I'm getting a pardon, which means I get to be a normal human being again.
His criminal history from a burglary charge back when he was 18. Klock spent 180 days in jail and completed probation for the 2004 felony conviction.
Trying to take a bicycle out of a garage, which is so stupid. My parents didn't want to bail me out. They're just like, you know what, you made this poor decision. You're gonna deal with it.
And since has completely turned his life around. He tells NBC7 he joined the military serving in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Korea. Now retired from the armed forces, Klock says he began the pardon process last fall and being granted the courtesy just a year later. He says he has a message for anyone trying to put their past behind them.
When you're in that community, you're in that cycle of just, I'm hanging around the same guys, they're doing the same bad stuff. You have to break free of that. I know it's not easy, but you have to break free of it.
And that was, you know, that triggered my rights being restored. There's a few other steps that I had to go through, but I thought, you know, that the Army gave me, and so many others like me, the opportunity to just excel and to thrive, and to build a foundation and a value set that really set me apart from my peers. And I really appreciate the community, I appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate each and every one of you that has sit here and listened to me talk. But most of all, I appreciate the service and the sacrifice of those brave service members who have gone before, are currently serving, and who will in the future come after. Thanks for watching. Happy birthday, U.S. Army.